Sorry, I was looking for my unmute button. Thank you so much for being here again. Welcome to our first week of action. Thank you so much for joining us for this activist Q&A. My name is Cassandra Rendon Morales, she, ella. I'm the Reproductive Rights Campaign Coordinator, and we're gonna kick things off. Awesome, so as we begin this event, we do wanna start off with the land acknowledgement. So we begin this event by honoring and acknowledging that we are on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho nations. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties that these nations have to the traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. So thank you so much for sharing this space with us today. Sweet, so before we pass it over to our fabulous guests and panelists, I just want to do a couple of reminders. So Zoom captions, you should see the live transcription on your screen. If you don't, there's like a little button at the bottom that you can select, live transcribing. This webinar is being recorded. There is a questions box where you can submit your question. There's also a chat box. It's going to be super handy. We'll be dropping in any links that we mention. You'll find them in the chat box. And then at the end of this event, there is a survey. And for our moderator today, we have our amazing, my amazing boss, Taylor Pendergrass, Director of Advocacy and Strategic Alliance. He'll be moderating the panel, and then we do have some live poetry and some music that we're sharing with you all today. So thank you again for being here. Awesome. So now to kick things off, we have Basha Rose Maya, she, her, ella, aka Bonchias Basha. She currently lives in Denver, Colorado. She is a meditative student, a teacher, writer, and poet of divine love and appreciation. Her passion is serving the community through the art of acoustic poetry and uplifting speaking. She deeply intends to be an offering of divine love, of self and wellness within the community. Welcome, Basha Rose Maya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. So as we talked about, I will be sharing two of my pieces with you all in this sacred space. So the first piece is called Nourish. And can everyone hear me pretty well? I'm okay. How are you, Cassandra? You can hear me?
Yes, you sound great. You look great. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Okay, so this piece, as I mentioned, is Nourish, and I do hope it does that for this space. So here we go. So I write to be, I write to see the intricate aspects of all of me, for there is fullness in the way that the wind holds my voice as she holds my hand as a guide to the path of joy, which I have now found on most days. I've built home in grace and gratitude, these windows of trust, for in them I now know what I see. I see hands and branches alike, assisting my leaps into the unknown, into new land, for there I am reminded of prospered plans of who I truly am, a descendant of Rose. Basha Rose, for your steps are many, and you walk as many. So darling, you must write, for your hands can heal. You must speak, for your voice will raise the love and grace that is you. Follow it always, for your heart knows what is real and what is truth, for lack is illusion and abundance is you. So remember, your powers will lead you to many worlds and many seas. Know that you are the keys to your grandest dreams, supported by great grandmothers and by their prayers, for you have overcome it all with ease. For love has never left you, and we will never leave you. So darling, remember. So that's Nourish, everybody. Oh my God, I haven't done it in a while, so that feels good to share. So thank you all so much for that piece. And look at you all. Love it too, thank you. So the second piece is called Have You Seen the Grass Lately? And I had an amazing opportunity, to share this last October for the Women's March. Not sure if anyone is online that was there, but it was quite a time. So always excited to share this piece. So this one again is called Have You Seen the Grass Lately? Okay. Whew. So soar, so others may see you. Fly, so that you may know. Breathe, so that you may show how ease, how free, how you now walk and release what no longer serves, what no longer holds your mind, your body, your soul be. All that you have been called to be. Show who you are and know that you are love, grace, and peace. Swiftly dance on the floor as the rhythmic beat of my heart flows, for you are joy, you are light, you are fire, and passion is within. So let it lead you and guide you. Let it show you who you are. Let it remind you of how you move, but listen, be still and know. Know that I am with you. Know that I am before you. Know that there is no time nor place that I cannot get to you. Know that I am within you. So open your eyes and see. See that I have never left you. And for now, you may be in home and comfort and in peace. So cry, for it is all right. Cry, for it is safe now. Scream, for we are allowed to be angry. We are allowed to be mad. We are allowed to be whatever we choose to be, but feel. Release and accept. So now walk forward with your head up. Put your crown on, baby girl, for you are the throne, for you are royal, for you are worthy, for you are no longer anything that which they called you, for you are all things divine. Thank you so very much. ACLU, I thank y'all.
Basha,
Thank
that was
y'all.
amazing.
I know I'm like, don't cry. I like
No.
attempted to put mascara. Never really wear makeup, but it might be coming off. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. To follow the journey, feel free to on Instagram at Bounteous Basha. You can follow me. I'm really great at keeping in contact. Thank you all for this. Also for booking invitations, feel free to contact me at Basha R, as in Rose, Basha R Collins at gmail.com. And that's how you all can kind of stay in touch with me if you like. So thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, Basha. Really, really, it's a pleasure. And it's just great to see you again. So thank you for agreeing to spend some time with us. It's always great. So I dropped her information in the chat. So feel free to follow her on social media and then book her for your upcoming events. Do folks see the screen? Sweet, awesome. Let me just, awesome. So now that we started things, we're gonna move on to our panel. So I'll pass it over to my colleague, Taylor Pendergrass. He will be introducing our fabulous panel for today.
Thanks, Cassandra. I just want to say thanks again to Basha for cultivating the space for us to have this conversation today. I could not imagine a better way of bringing us all together. And my only regret is that we're all not in person to share that together. And on that note, and Cass, if you just want to go through the next few slides while I'm talking, so people can see who our fabulous panel is. Y'all, we have a truly amazing rock star group to share their wisdom and insight and journey with you today. These are people that I've been following on social media for years, and I am having the benefit of hearing from them for the first time. So you see our first three here, and Cass, if you go to the next slide. I want to again make a call to everyone in the audience to please show your love and your questions and your energy in the chat box. We're so grateful to be coming live and direct to people all over Colorado in this virtual format, but we miss the energy of being in the room with you too. So please let us know that you're hearing us and seeing us and feeling us. +1 stuff, ask questions if you have it. I want to thank Samuel for already throwing some questions in the chat box, and keep them coming. I'll do my best as moderator to bring them up to the panel. And then after we go through a little bit of our discussion, we'll also open it up more generally for everyone to jump in and ask. So Cass, I think we can go ahead and bring the whole panel up now if we want. All right. Just killing it. Okay, y'all, I wanted to start by recognizing that a lot of folks who are in the room with us today include students and young people and elders and others who might be just starting some of their journey on activism and advocacy. And I would love for them to hear what your path was. What do you do in your day-to-day job right now? And how do you get there? And I'd love to hear this from everyone on the panel, maybe for a minute or so. So if we could just popcorn it around and just tell everyone your name and your title and your organization, what does your day-to-day look like? And then maybe a little bit about what brought you to advocacy work. And I will start with Selena.
Thanks, Taylor. Is my audio okay? Great. And I am recovering from a cold, just a cold. I tested multiple times. So if I have to mute for a second to clear my throat, apologies in advance. My name is Selena Nahar. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the political director at Cobalt. I've been here just over 2 years now. And my day-to-day work, I oversee our electoral and legislative goals. So I oversee like our campaign work and then also good bills and bad bills that are at the state capitol. And the way that I got involved in this work, I've been doing community service type organizing since high school. And honestly, when I graduated college in 2016 and saw Trump on the ballot, that was it for me. That's when I really, really got involved. So I'll dig into that a bit more later, but that's how it started.
Thanks, Selena. Mark, tell us who you are and what brought you to this work.
So I'm Mark. I'm the legal director at the ACLU of Colorado. I was lucky enough to get probably the best job that you could have as a lawyer. It's the first job I got as a lawyer, and I've kept it. So I have worked for the ACLU since 1991. I think I got into this because I was doing alternative journalism and I was interviewing people who got beat up by the police. And I would write up stories for our paper that would tell what happened from the point of view of the victim. And one day, a lawyer hired me, said, I'm suing that cop you write about all the time. So I want to hire you to go find more people and write up memos. And here's a book you can look at. And it was called Police Misconduct, Law and Litigation. And I read that book, and the next year I was applying to law school because I learned that supposedly they can't say no comment when you're a lawyer. They have to say, I don't recall. And instead of saying no documents, they have to actually give you documents in discovery. So it was the hope of being able to take those stories into litigation that got me into this. And a couple of weeks ago, in an ACLU case, we got a $14 million verdict against Denver police for aggressive actions against people protesting the murder of George Floyd.
Thanks for sharing, Mark, and thanks for sharing that fantastic win. And note to everyone, never too late for a second career after you're a journalist to jump into lawyering and advocacy. So maybe we'll inspire some of you today to make that career change. Aurea, could I ask you to introduce yourself, your title, your role, and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. Aurea Bolaños Perea, Aria for English speakers, she, her, ella pronouns. I'm the strategic comms manager at Color Latina. So that's the Colorado Organization for Latina Opportunity and Reproductive Rights. Okay. So a little bit of what I do as a strategic comms manager is be very thoughtful about how we can communicate our reproductive justice values and mission to our community. As you may know, we are the only RJ Latina-led organization in the state. We're very proud of that. And also our predominant community that we organize and advocate for is our Latinx community here in Colorado. So I have to think through day to day, we need to write op-eds, do we need to create a campaign? What's the messaging to really push us through a reproductive justice future? And how do we accomplish that, not only using our skills as Color, but also our community power, because we wouldn't be here. This is actually our 24th anniversary. Woo-hoo. But truly, we couldn't be here without community power, and we recognize that and we elevate that. So my day-to-day is, what else can we say about RJ, right? And also I want to second about, if you ever want to do a career change, I used to be in academia pursuing my PhD, and then I was like, that's not for me. I'm going to go back to what my actual love is, which is advocacy and RJ. So here I am with you all. So very excited about that, and to share this space with other incredible leaders that I have had the pleasure of getting to know now that I'm with Calor. So passing it back to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that. Elise, why don't we turn it over to you? I just want everyone to know before Elise starts talking, she's calling from her car after having just been at a hearing at the legislature. This is the life of an activist, y'all, and Elise is bringing it real. Elise, tell us about yourself and how you got to your work.
Hi, guys. So I'm the Youth Policy Council at ACLU of Colorado, and I advocate for things to get better for kids, especially kids who have been charged with crimes in the system. So in my day, I might be going to a meeting to try to get policy change that affects kids. I might be sitting down with a kiddo in a detention center to hear about what their actual experience is, to figure out what changes we need to make. Or like today, I might be at the Capitol working on a bill or pushing or lobbying or testifying about a bill to try to get the law changed. What pushed me into really liking juvenile work, I think, was I started as I'm an attorney, and I started as a public defender in Washington, D.C., and an experience that I still think about when we're doing advocacy around how kids are treated by police or in institutions is I had a 17-year-old client who was like a big kid living in the projects in DC. When I met him, he'd been charged with a crime, and he got arrested while I was representing him and just called me sobbing and asking for his mommy. And he just kept saying over and over, they tased me. They tased me. I can't believe they tased me. And so that kind of stuff, moved me to try to make things better for kids.
Thanks, Elise. And Vanessa, please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your story.
Good afternoon, you all. I'm Vanessa Quintana. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the advocacy coordinator at Girls Inc. of Metro Denver. That's a youth serving organization that provides girl-centered programming. What I do is develop all, I write and lead all curriculum pertaining to advocacy. Specifically, I manage the Leadership Out Loud program, which is a 3-year program that cultivates revolutionary leadership among high school youth. And I also lead the legislative advocacy, whether it's in the Colorado General Assembly or whether we're dabbling in local government like Denver Public Schools. I analyze the policy and distill it into translatable nuggets for youth of all ages to understand and activate them to lead the change that they envision. And what sparked this is because of my own voice being ignored by elected officials. I'm born and raised in Denver, and I'm an East Sider from Five Points community. And if you all could recall, back in 2006, Manual High School was shut down. And so that shut down my freshman year. And I was upset. I've always been a sociologist, always knew the different, the stark contrast of race and class, from the 5 Points to like Applewood Village or Cherry Creek. And when Manual shut down, I knew that it was just affecting Black and Brown students because the other schools, Cole, which I had previously attended, was just a Black and Brown student for poor Black and Brown students. And so the closure of Manual High School became the catalyst of that changed the trajectory of my life. It helped me discover the power of my voice and gave me direction and a purpose to, honestly, to pursue collective liberation. I find that this manufactured trauma has propelled me to become the first in my family to graduate high school, college, eventually get a master's degree from Berkeley. And it was because of this exact experience of having my voice ignored and silenced by the board of directors of Denver Public Schools and our superintendent back then. And so it was then this, me coming on from this end, having this system enforcing a traumatic experience on me. And I figured out, I was like, you know what? I don't know what that is over there. I learned it was called policy, but I was like, I'm gonna find my way over over there to that side and I'm going to make a difference. So here I am after getting a couple of degrees, trying to pave the way for young people to have a voice in government and actually shape policy.
Thanks, Vanessa. Y'all heard it. I did not lie. Just an incredible group of rock stars and badass activists here at all stages. So we're going to get into it a little bit. We're going to open it up. Y'all touched on this in various different ways, right? This work is really hard. It can involve direct exposure to trauma, tapping into lived experience that was trauma, enormous political obstacles and odds. Sometimes it seems very dark and the road is long. What are some of the principles or inspirations that you hold close to your heart when y'all are doing the work, when you're out there organizing, or when you're at a place where you might have to make a compromise to try to get a policy win that you want, and you want to make sure you're not sacrificing core values? I'd love to hear from anyone about something that they find inspiring or motivating or grounding as they're doing this work out there in the advocacy world.
Yeah, I could kick that off. I have three primary principles. The first one is vision is essential. If you're grounded in collective liberation or intersectional justice, then you are likely to be intentional in your direction of progress, and know that there's a difference between incremental progress and an incremental vision. Principle number two is amplify community voices. Don't replace their voice. You cannot be the voice for the voiceless. Their voices are either they're not heard because they're ignored or silenced, but it's not because they lack a voice. Use your platform or positional power to include the voices of marginalized voices in the decision-making process, whatever your advocacy endeavor is. And number three, embody the distinction. That's what I live by as a leader and a facilitator. It's if you seek change in your community, embody that change you seek, whether it's healing, whether it's respect, healthy conflict resolution, healthy communication, Black, brown solidarity, whatever it is, you have to practice it. And in practicing your values, you invite others to grow with you. One of my mentors, you may know her as Councilwoman Sidabaka, once said to me, she said, you cannot fight for collective liberation if you don't know what personal liberation looks like, feels like, sounds like, or tastes like. And it stumped me. So then I had to figure out what it meant for me. And so I encourage you all to take some time to really dive in deep. And what is that vision? And then how do you begin practicing that vision?
Thanks, Vanessa. Wow, what a roadmap. Could I ask you to say a little bit more about that difference you mentioned between incremental vision and incremental policy wins? So important. Like, how would you give an example of that or articulate how that has worked for you in your work?
I found that because of my master thesis. I did a really cool project interviewing 32 folks in the Denver metro area, really trying to interrogate the blue wave of 2018. So I graduated in 2020. And so it was with elected officials, activists, organizers, and I really was asking folks, like, what do you want to pursue, radical or like incremental change? And there were folks like, I'm just all about radical change or incremental. And what I've realized is that all change begins with a single step. However, so, whether it's like, I'm all about rewriting the Constitution. So I'm like, Mark, I want to go to law school myself. I want to be a part of the reinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. Anyhow, if I want to get there, I can't lose sight of that vision. I just have to take small steps to get there, right? Me, first place, get to law school, go ahead and do that thing. Work at the ACLU perhaps along the way, but let that be my North Star and take strategic incremental changes. And so steps to get there rather than settling for a smaller goal, a short-sighted goal that will only be to put a Band-Aid over a wound, so to speak. So if the vision is collective liberation, then you have to have steps that are aligned with that vision and have that integrity there rather than settling for something small, because you're always going to make compromises. You're always, whatever you plan for, it's not going to happen. I planned to go to Harvard, ended up at Berkeley. I planned to go to run for office, but here I am at a nonprofit, right? Nothing ever goes as planned, but I'm doing exactly the work that I want to do, right? And so you have to keep that vision in mind and let that be your guiding star, but keep in mind that those steps will look different, but you have to keep those steps aligned. It could go zigzag a little bit, like when you're trying to bowl and could put those the guardrails up, but you can't just compromise the vision, your vision, because it's going to take too long, or it's going to be too hard, or there's going to be too many roadblocks. If it's a vision worth having, it's a vision worth working for. And so take those small steps. Like I don't know if Elise wants to talk about, I don't know, like if it's a policy, if you want to, like a tangible example, like my students are working on the IHAM comprehensive health education policy with Denver Public Schools. They rewrit the entire thing, have sexual health education, physical education, emotional health education. That's the big goals, the North Star. But if in the process of negotiations, which we haven't really got there yet, they might have to cut it down a little bit, right? But the value is still going to be there, and they're going to still shoot for the stars. They're going to have everything on the table, and then slowly chip away if those compromises come in place. But those values have to be in line. They have to be aligned with the most marginalized identities. Don't compromise, what is going to best help marginalized identities in respect to that policy. But if you have any other questions, I'm open to answering them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vanessa. And speaking of that big picture vision, I'd love to hear from our friends in the reproductive justice and abortion rights space, because what y'all in the room are seeing this year is an enormous win with the passage of the Reproductive Health Equity Act. But I know there were some dark days getting there. And I know that this is a win that's a decade or more in the making. So same question I'd love to hear. During those dark days, during those power building days, during the days when Rhea seemed totally out of reach, what were the principles that you held on to, or the things that like really your fuel in your heart that kept you all going?
That's a really good question, because that is exactly what I wanted to say. With my goodness, it's hard not to get emotional, but I can tell you that what fueled me were the stories from our testifiers, the stories from folks that, even if they didn't testify, we knew they had those abortion stories either deep within them or for somebody that they love. And that what's happening in the news, what we're seeing across states like Oklahoma and Mississippi and Florida, and 26 states total that would go dark when Roe falls, is that we're just not simply a number, right? We are millions of stories that are waiting for a collective to pursue that abortion justice movement, pursue that abortion liberation. And I can tell you, I was born and raised in Mexico, and I moved to the States when I was 13. I knew about a dozen stories about folks that had sought an abortion in places that were dangerous, in places that were far from home, and in places where going alone may have also cost your life. And when I moved to the States, I kept coming back to repro work, even when I thought, you know what, this is just not the space for me. And the fact that in my gut, as not only an activist, but somebody that seeks revolutionary change, I just kept coming back to this work. And that was the same thing with Rhea. I didn't care about the 25-hour House debates. I didn't care about the 14-hour Senate debates. If it meant that we were moving the needle forward towards a reproductive justice future, all those stories that I carried with me since I was a child, it was all worth it. So now I'm going to pass it to Selena.
Thanks, Audia. Yeah, it is very hard to not get emotional. In high school, I was in both service learning, so like community service class, and speech and debate, because I was never an athlete. So I went to speech and debate camp because I'm fun at parties. And one of the guiding principles that they instilled in us in speech and debate camp is to always work like the underdog. And so take that, its own pillar. The reason I got involved in reproductive rights specifically is because my mom has an abortion story in which she was not supported. She, to this day, feels shame and stigma around that event in her life. And to this day, her family does not support her. Hearing that story as a 14-year-old had a big impact on me. And then I went on to be the first person from our family to graduate from college. And from there, I knew that I needed to use this opportunity. I needed to use everything that my mom invested in me, I needed to be able to give back. I needed to do something to be able to thank her in some way for everything that she was able to give me. And so on the really hard days for Rhea, the really long slog days, what got me through was thinking about the fact that this is so much bigger than any one of us. And I truly believe that access to a quality public education and the ability to control your reproduction are the two greatest factors in determining having someone be able to dig their way out of poverty. And yeah, it's hard not to get choked up. That's what kept me going.
Thank you for sharing that, Selena, and being vulnerable. Really appreciate it. This is a safe space to be emotional. Let's all get emotional if we feel that. Mark, I would love to hear from you as someone who has been filing some of the most important and impactful civil rights litigation in Colorado and before that California. You know, you're often looking at a pretty bleak landscape of federal judges, many of whom are now appointed by Trump. And sometimes the relief you can get from the end of the lawsuit might be a lot less than what we want in terms of that vision that Vanessa was talking about. What's kept you going and filing the lawsuits and getting up at the dais to argue in front of a hostile Trump judge year after year in your career?
Well, you know, I think sometimes I say that I was the victim of a bait and switch, because I got interested in law and the potential for law to be a tool for social change back when the Warren Court was issuing all those great decisions, and for a few years after the Warren Court. And then by the time I finally went to law school, it was like, oh, well, the game has changed. And now it's all conservatives on the Supreme Court, and we're going to go back on all those precedents. But one thing that I wanted to talk about some is that at the ACLU, we have not been relying just on litigation, and we have lawyers, we have communications people, we have legislative policy people, and we have organizers and campaign people. And so I wanted to give like an example of a success that came through advocacy using all of those different components of the ACLU. In the fall of 2020, we started hearing from a lot of homeowners from all over the state, and their complaint was that their HOA, their homeowners association, it prohibited them from posting Black Lives Matter signs on their own property, or other flags or other messages. So this is clearly an issue of free expression, right? That's an ACLU issue. But HOAs are private organizations. They're not government actors. And so the First Amendment doesn't apply. So what to do? Well, we lawyers were thinking up, some pretty creative legal theories, but legislation could prohibit these HOA restrictions. And our public policy director, Taylor's predecessor, talked to a legislator who was interested, and we drafted text for a bill. But as the session in 2021 started and month after month after month passed, the bill was never introduced. So what to do? Well, our communications department did outreach to the public. We want to hear from everybody who's had a problem with their homeowners association in terms of flags or signs, and outreach also to not only the public, but the press. And then in media interviews, we criticized the HOA speech restrictions, and we kept interviewing more and more homeowners. And then we filed an easy case against a metro district that had similar speech restrictions. And I say easy case because the First Amendment does apply to metro districts. But what we were really doing was we were getting much more publicity for the issue, because then we could talk, when they asked us about the metro district case, we could say, And there's lots of all these homeowners associations all over the state. Thousands of people are forbidden to post a sign in their own front yard. And the media coverage of that case allowed us to talk more extensively then about these HOA restrictions. And it also led to a huge article in the New York Times with photos of some of the people that we've been speaking to. And that article circulated among legislators. Meanwhile, we were still thinking up creative legal theories, despite the lack of a First Amendment claim. We planned out a test case. We recruited a law firm to co-counsel with us. But then in May, just a couple weeks left of the legislature, the bill was finally introduced as a late bill. And so our campaign staff at the ACLU rounded up all those dozens of homeowners who we'd been speaking with. And they came down and they testified at the House and they testified at the Senate, and a bill was passed and Governor Polis signed it into law. And now the HOAs are forbidden to restrict Black Lives Matter signs or other messages because of the content of the message. And so that was a strategy where we didn't have to go to court, and the legal theory was going to be very challenging. But
thanks for sharing that, Mark. I feel such the same way, that I get power and fuel and inspiration and energy from knowing that we're all in this fight together and we're all building political power together. And I'm feeling that for my team at the ACLU that Mark just mentioned, and also from hearing all of you, because we know it's going to take all of us to push back against the challenges that we're facing. Elise, people may be surprised, sadly, to know that the dark days are here for juvenile justice. Elise is leading the charge on helping to run a bill that would prohibit the arrest and putting into the criminal system of 10-year-olds, of 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. And we are having a hard time getting this bill past the legislature. What's been keeping you going the last couple of months as we run into these unexpected and very depressing headwinds?
So I think one of the most important things about that effort is the amazing coalition of folks that are behind that effort. That bill is a coalition bill where we have people from across Colorado and people even nationally on our coalition that are really coming forward to try and say putting 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds in handcuffs is not the best way to serve these kids, and it doesn't actually make us safer. Vanessa, who's on this call, has done some amazing work with the kids she works with, brought them in to advocate. They've come to the Capitol to testify. So the legislature has to look in the eye of the people that they're affecting when they're refusing to change things and letting 10-year-olds get prosecuted. They've made these beautiful videos for that we've been able to show to the public, advocating for the bill. And so what really makes it possible to keep working on that is the fact that we have this broad coalition that really believes in the vision, and that also, like Vanessa said, we have that North Star. We know what we want the bill to look like. We know that we want to stop the prosecution of all kids 10 to 12. And as it becomes difficult, and as we have to make hard decisions about what steps we can take now and what steps we can take later, we know we're thinking very thoughtfully about getting to the goal. And everybody in the coalition is in it for as long as it takes to do it. So that really helps us keep going.
Thanks. So just such a masterclass, right, in the marathon, not the sprint. We heard the North Star. We heard centering impacted communities in their leadership. We heard personal experience, intergenerational experience with this work, storytelling, integrated advocacy, where we're using every tool we've got in our toolbox, coalition building, and so much more. I just also want to shout out Basha and say, what's kept me in this fight is art, and recentering myself on art and culture and the truth that art brings. So I just want to thank Basha again for sharing that. We are amazingly getting close to the end of our conversation. So I want to do a couple things. Invite folks to put any questions you have in the chat box. The panelists can answer in writing, even as we're talking. So if you have a question for a particular panelist or just want to throw something open to people, don't hesitate to use the Q&A. I think I want to close us out for the next 5 to 10 minutes. We just talked a lot about what's hard. Let's talk about what the wins. Let's talk about what's been rewarding. Let's talk about what's been impactful. I would love to hear people share stories about what's the most rewarding or impactful campaign or case or policy you've worked on, and what made it rewarding. It might have been the policy win, and it might have been the impact, or it might have been the friends you made along the way. So please share something that is uplifting and inspiring, especially for this group of young people that might be thinking about getting into this fight too. And would love for anyone to jump in on that.
All right, I'll do it since you insist.
Thank you.
What has been exciting moving forward? I mean, so much. I have not even been with Color for a year, but I have already seen the power that coalition building and community has here, especially in the subject of reproductive justice. And what I really realized is that as a Latina-led organization, we really led the charge of pushing back against laws or stigma that disproportionately affect our communities and challenge our autonomy, and recognizing that at the forefront of that were women of color, LGBTQ folks, youth, like folks from low-income background, immigrant people, and recognizing that a future where reproductive justice is possible, it's actually attainable. And that is truly what brings me to this work. And it's truly something that when we look into how you can get involved, realize that you do have the power to make the change that you want possible. And everybody in this call is willing to not only share the space, but uplift you and put you on the platform that you need, because it's not like we don't recognize that we are on the shoulder of giants, of organizers and activists that have come before us and made the change possible. So I just know that it is because of those that came before us and the youth and the folks that are listening to us that we're going to be okay.
Love that. Can I ask others to share their favorite policy win or campaign or project?
My favorite moment from organizing ever, and it's happened a couple times, is getting folks registered to vote for the first time.
I'll share about the kiddos. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Getting folks to register to vote for the first time, and also then having 2 folks follow up with me afterward, after the election, to tell me that they had voted for the first time. And that is just the coolest thing in the world.
Totally agree. Elise, you're going to tell us a little bit.
Yes, sorry, I had a little blip there, so I didn't mean to interrupt it. Yeah, the way that I weaseled my way into the ACLU to do this work is we had a campaign a few years ago around the restraint and seclusion of kids, where we went and interviewed them in facilities to hear their stories of what was really happening to them. And we're able to corroborate it and put a report out there to the public to amplify those stories and make everybody realize at that time, kids who were in custody were sometimes being put in isolation for like 30 days at a time or longer, which is, a terrifying way to treat children. And as a result of us doing that with them bills, now the use of seclusion, which is what they call it, I call it solitary confinement, is drastically reduced. The kids still get separated and put in a room like after a fight, but on average they're let out in less than an hour. And we haven't seen any kids. There's a law now that if they want to keep a kid isolated for more than 4 hours, they have to ask for a judge's approval, and they haven't asked for that for 2 years. So it's really a drastic change in our facilities that came about from a years-long effort to investigate, report, and then pass legislation and change policy at the division.
Huge win. Thanks, Elise. Vanessa or Mark, any quick things y'all would like to share?
Sure. I'll just mention that our work on the Raise the Floor bill really inspired. We took a group of elementary students to the Capitol, and it was amazing. Doing the workshop and that field trip really created a spark among the elementary students at Girls Inc. And now everybody wants to get involved in advocacy. They got the advocacy bug and they're speaking up on issues, sharing with me that they want to go to the Capitol and testify. So we're excited for the upcoming session and finish off the session with more student voice. And so I'll just briefly share that. Thank you.
Thanks, V. Mark, I mean, we already shared the Denver protest win, which is a pretty big win that just happened. Anything else top of mind for you? You're on mute.
I was saying, no, I'm going to pass. So the mute was appropriate.
All right. I'm gonna parking lot, a really important question here about how do you get involved with the ACLU, or I would say any of these groups, in impacting change, because we're going to get to a call to action in a second. I wonder if anyone has any quick thoughts on this question from Catherine about how to get involved with advocacy in a place like Colorado Springs, where you might feel like an island in the midst of a conservative environment or a place where people just don't share your values. Anyone have experience with doing work in Colorado, which used to be a red state or a red geography, or a place where you just felt alone? And what's your advice for people about starting to build advocacy in those places? Selena, I see you nodding a lot, so I might invite you in.
Thank you. Yeah, I was born and raised in Grand Junction, Colorado. And then in 2016, see, this is a full circle moment. In 2016, when I was a field organizer for the Hillary campaign, I was a field organizer for Hillary Rodham Clinton in Delta County and in Montrose County, Colorado. Yes, they are exactly what you think they are. Honestly, centering community, centering their needs and their voices. And it's, you know, it's one of those lean in moments where it was really just about one-on-one relationship building and listening more than talking, listening to the needs of community. And organizing is fundamentally relationship building. And I'm still friends with tons of the folks that I worked closely with in 2016 because it's relationship building. And that's, you know, I can reach out to those folks like present day and ask for, can you help lift up the Reproductive Health Equity Act or whatever it is. And that's the beauty of community organizing, is that it snowballs like that.
Yeah, that's totally right.
I just want to put piggyback off of Selena. I also was organizing on that same campaign in 2016, but in Brighton, that really red part of CD6, which was a swing district. And my advice to all the young people here is, if you want to find like-minded people, research who's on the ballot this year. It's an important midterm election. Get involved either in the primary, which is very important to see who's going to represent your specific party. Won't say which one to go with, but the election is in June, the last Tuesday of June. But beyond that, there's also there's an election every year in Colorado, and so that is a great way to learn and dissect power, see how it's moving among communities, how it's concentrated, how it's wielded negatively. But you also really meet very cool people, like-minded people, get engaged in some really cool conversations, find mentors. You could be mentored or mentoring, and so really get involved in these elections. And you don't even have to be of age to vote. I brought my niece, who was a fifth grader for that 2016 cycle, and she's 14 now and still helps out on all these elections. So get involved.
Absolutely. Plus one to that. And I also just want to say, I know we all feel the same way. Like, y'all are not as alone as you think you are. And just in the chat box right now, I see Deanna connecting with Catherine in Colorado Springs. And part of the role, I think, of our organizations is to help cultivate these spaces where we can make these connections. That's a big part of what organizing is, and bringing everyone together. And if you're in a Delta County or a place where you feel really alone, also get involved with Color or the ACLU or Girls or other organizations. That's a place you can make connections and networks to people across the state, to learn from them, to gain power and build power with them, and to really grow our networks across the entire state of Colorado. And on that note, I want to thank all the panelists for the amazing conversation that we've had. Please, everyone, put your thank you to our rock stars in the chat box right there. Keep the questions coming if you'd like. There are so many ways to get involved with the ACLU of Colorado and with Color and with Girls Inc. And with Cobalt. And I encourage everyone to sign up for our listservs, follow us on social media, and become a volunteer. And we would be remiss as activists and advocates if we left you without something to do and action to take right now. So you've heard a lot from both Vanessa and Elise and myself about a bill in the legislature right now that would treat kids like kids and get 10 to 12-year-olds out of the criminal legal system. Here's a call to action right now and some sample posts that you can put up on your social media with hashtags. We're really trying to create an echo chamber effect right now around this legislation and with our elected officials. So take a look at this, look at the ACLU of Colorado social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook to find a really amazing and impactful video that you can share with your networks and keep turning the temperature and the pressure up. And then become part of our community of activists and volunteers. Invite us to Colorado Springs, invite us out to Durango so we can come and meet with you and listen to what you and your community needs, and we can build this all together. Okay, we're gonna now kind of wrap up the time here with something that's really important for us. You all would be doing us a huge favor if you took the time to fill out a feedback survey. This is the first ever week of action that the ACLU of Colorado and all of our partners have put together. Our goal, as we've said in all our materials, is really to demystify the legislative advocacy process and activism and advocacy for all of you, and to make us more connected to the communities and constituencies that we're all fighting so hard alongside. We want to improve this. We want to do it next year. We want to do it better next year. We want to give you the content that you want next year, the skills you want and you need. So please just take a few minutes to fill out the survey. Let us know how we've done. Let us know what you would love to see in 2023. And we have a very amazing performance from the Denver Gay Men's Chorus that we're going to play in the background while everyone takes a minute to fill out the survey. Then please don't go anywhere, and we'll just close us out in a few minutes after that. Thank you all so much.
Could you hear my sound or no?
Not hear your sound yet.
Okay.
And everyone, just to note, the link to the survey is in the chat box. Cass just put it there. Just click on that and it'll take you right there.
Before the parade passes by, I'm gonna go and taste Saturday's high life. Before the parade passes by, I'm gonna get some life back into my life. I'm ready to move out in front. I've had enough of just passing my life with the rest of them, the best of them. I can hold my head up high, for I've got a goal again. I've got to drive again. I'm gonna feel my heart coming alive again before the parade passes by. Look at that crowd up ahead. Listen and hear that brass harmony growing. Look at that crowd up ahead. Pardon me if my old spirit is showing.
I'm gonna go and taste Saturday's high life before the parade passes by. I'm gonna get some life back into my life. I'm ready to move out in front. I've had enough of just passing my life. The rest of them, the rest of them, the rest of them, the rest of them can hold my head up high. I'm gonna go again, I'm gonna try again, I'm gonna feel my heart coming alive again. Before the parade passes by, passes by.
All right, y'all, we just have a few more things to share with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to fill out the survey. We really appreciate it. We have some 2 more events happening this week that I really think you all will love and want to be a part of. The first is our Lobbying for the People workshop, which is tomorrow at 5 p.m. We have some amazing lobbyists sharing their expertise about how you, as a lay person, activist, or community member, or an advocate, can affect the legislation that is going to affect your community and your family, and learn all the tips and tricks about how to leverage your story, your lived experience, your energy, your activism, and really influence and shape the laws in the state of Colorado. So please don't miss that. There's still plenty of room. That's another virtual event, so you can sign in from anywhere in the state. And if you need a link for that, just go to the ACLU of Colorado website and you can find it there. We also have an in-person tour of the state capitol that's happening on Friday. There's 2 time slots remaining at 9:30 and 3. If you feel safe and comfortable being in person, I encourage you not to miss this tour. It is a great way to become familiar with the Capitol, to know where you will go for that hearing when you want to deliver testimony, where the office of your state senator is when you want to go and lobby them directly. And do that now in advance, not under the pressure of a particular bill, so you feel confident and empowered about how to navigate your way around the hallways of power. Second, we want to thank all of our co-sponsoring ambassador organizations on this slide, and you can see them all listed here, many of whom you saw represented in our panel. We could not have done this without their support and input, and we are forever grateful for them joining us with this week of action. And last but not least, we want to thank our incredible panelists and Basha for kicking us off with art. And I want to especially thank Cass for putting this amazing panel together, for herding all the cats and putting together such an incredible program. We'll be sending you all an email with a recording of this. If you have friends that you think would benefit from it, please share this with them. Sign up for all these organizations, social media channels, and websites. And we hope to see you all tomorrow at Lobbying is for the People. Thank you so much.